Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, everybody. Sorry for the getting on a little bit later here this morning. Was doing a couple things, getting ready. So top of the morning to you guys, everybody. All right, we're going to start running through, again, the most popular stocks today that are being talked about by most chat rooms. So let's get into it. All right, so the first stock here, which is basically the most popular stock that's being talked about, is Tesla. We kind of sent out some emails last night and pretty much sent out a couple posts around the Facebook world that this was probably going to be dropping overnight. They got hit with a news piece last night that they recalled like some odd 14,000 of their vehicles, which really isn't all that bad. But considering that the stock had arose from like 300 to 1,000 to have that sort of news hit after that move, then it is bad. Then they also got hit with a secondary offering this morning. Their 10K also came out. So they got a couple things that are surrounding them this morning with bad news. So a lot of traders are probably going to be looking to go short on this. In reality, it's probably not even going to, I'm not quite sure if it's actually going to be the best short. I mean, we already dropped from 820 all the way down to 712 this morning. We have supports that start at basically 707. You know, we have this, so we basically already fell all the way down to support, at least during pre-market trading. There's still a ways that it could go down if it wants to, but ultimately we move from 820 down to $700 support. So I believe that most of the down move has probably already happened. And so maybe we see a little bit more, but I don't think that we're really going to get an extremely big amount of downside on Tesla today. Maybe not, but I think we already pretty much fell right in support, and the markets are going to rather whip it up than bring it back down, because ultimately there's still a lot of room the stock can come down. But the best thing to do before bringing it down is to make sure you can get more of it for the downside play, which means we'd have to bring the stock back up. So we'll see. Right now we are on trend this morning, pretty much from yesterday going until today. This white line is the trend. So, you know, I got a couple of them here, but basically once we kind of break up from 735 on Tesla, we're probably going to squeeze that way. So we'll see. We're kind of just sitting ho-humming, hanging out this morning. We'll see what happens. But ultimately, I think today we're probably going to see it squeeze. I think we could very well see it squeeze up. I hope it just goes crashing down. But again, given the circumstances, we've already went from 820 all the way down to 700. It just doesn't seem likely to get a whole lot of more action just screaming down on it today. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how this all plays out. Okay. From a daily chart, we'll take a look at the daily chart. So still pretty much a bubble. Again, bubble, last blow off top, and now we're kind of starting to roll over and roll down, right? You can see that drop this morning went all the way down here. So the markets pretty much did what they wanted to do, and that was go towards the 700 level. But the market can't allow the stock to go below 700 quite yet, because anybody with options that are betting below 700 would make too much money. So the market's not going to allow the stock to get below 700 right now. They'll probably let it happen in the future, but at a later date and time. So the traders that like to make quick, fast money will not be making that quick, fast money. The market's not going to allow it. So they're going to crush all the traders that have short-term puts on their premium before they let it go down. So I just don't think that we're going to be seeing a whole lot more downside just yet. The markets probably just don't want that to happen. So they're most likely not going to happen. We'll see. I could be very well wrong. I hope it goes crashing down, but I just don't see the markets allowing that to happen right now. Offerings are bad, yes, but when you have it on a higher price stock, a bigger stock, they're not as bad. That's the thing, is offerings are terrible on penny stocks. When it comes to a larger stock, they're really not that bad. They can be bad, but in the case with Tesla, it's probably not even bad. So I don't really think the offering news is anything to really jump at too much, because as you can see, we had the offering, we screeched down, which makes sense, right? The stock should decrease in value when you offer more shares to the open market. So we should see the shares get diluted and come down a little bit. But in the grand scheme of thing, it was only like $2 billion, right? I mean, I don't even know what the market cap of it is currently. But if anybody knows the market cap of Tesla, put it in there. And then think about it. I mean, the market cap's probably somewhere like, I think it was 130 billion or something like that. Maybe it's 200 billion now. I really don't even know. But if you think about it in the grand scheme of thing, if the company's market cap's like 200 billion and then what's a 2 billion offering? It's nothing. That's a percent. It's 1%. Or wait, yeah, it's a 10%. It's nothing. It's tiny, right? So I don't even think you should really concern yourself with the offering in terms of a bear side. And then you got to think about it, right? Big company like Tesla, that 2 billion isn't going to be thrown away at anything. I mean, no, it's a big company. That 2 billion, raise is going to be used for something that's probably beneficial to the company. So this probably should be seen as, somewhat of a good thing. But it's not surprising given the pricing, right? The stock skyrocketed all the way to 700. It's perfect timing for an offering while things are at high prices. So that's why the offering was done now after the price of the stock has skyrocketed. So that's where I think we're currently at right now. Okay. Yeah. Would I own Tesla? No, not at this price. I just don't see it. It's just not worth it at this price. No, I'll own Tesla. I'll own Tesla down at. I'll own Tesla down here in the 500s or the 400s. That's where I'll buy it. And believe me, there's a strong chance it gets there. 83%. I'm not going to say the analysts are correct, but I've been I've been wanting it down at like 500 and 485s in that zone ultimately. And come to find, there's now hit pieces going on the internet that are saying 83% of analysts think that it should be right about 485, 500, right? So that's where I ultimately believe we are going. And at the end of the day, markets love to fill gaps, and we just have a ton of gaps to fill on this chart down. So it would, in the weekly chart, right? You have a big old look at that gap on the weekly chart. You don't think the markets want that to be filled? They do. The markets would love to fill that gap down. So there's a strong chance that you're going to see the price of Tesla down there sooner than later. But we'll see. All right. All right, cool. So next one on the list we'll talk about is BABA. All right, so BABA had earnings. Obviously, you can clearly see that. Hold on, give me a second. Yeah, so BABA had earnings here. It's been kind of a whipsaw so far. We've gone up, we've gone down, and we're kind of back up. So don't have too much fundamental stuff on this one today, but it's ultimately... Oh, here's something good for you guys. Here's something from Market Watch. It says, get ready for stocks to peak this summer, then the U.S. recession, warns fund manager. So there's a lot more talk right now about recession. So we're kind of getting back into that world of talking about recession. It's never really, and I don't say it to scare anybody, but we are starting to see more of that worry because of the virus. And a lot of people are blowing the virus off like it's nothing, which is just very idiotic at this point. A lot of people are, and I'm not here to give you a whole virus speech, but I'll break it down really quick for you. So if you've noticed, I remember you guys noticed I was discussing that quarter one is going to be very important for 2020 because that's where we're most likely going to see the negative effects from the coronavirus, right? I was saying that a couple weeks ago. Now you're starting to see a lot of analysts and a lot of news places like Market Watch and Reuters and pretty much all of the market news outlets starting to say the exact same thing, that 2020 we should see a slowdown because of the coronavirus. So now the analysts are starting to push it out there. So now the market is telling you guys what it wants, right? That's the market's way of telling you what it wants, putting out these news articles saying, hey, look at this and this and this. Meanwhile, they're planning for it already. So I think that we're seeing a form of movement in the market that's planning for the 2020 first quarter, which again could be negative at that. So with that being said, Alibaba could be one of those affected. So pops up, starts fading down. Ultimately, I don't even really want to be bearish on BABA today. I just think that BABA is going to have a pretty neutral day. I think there'll be some movement down, but ultimately, I think where we're at right now, it's probably just going to kind of chop around. I don't know. We'll see. It's a big range. You got a range from 226 to 216. Best thing you can do is just play bounces. Trade the tops, trade the bottoms off support and resistance. Secondly, the options market wanted a 10-point move on Alibaba. They got their 10-point move and a little bit more. No, about 10 points. So the options market has gotten what they wanted. I really just don't see this running too far past any support. Okay. As you can see, Tesla's kind of pushing up a little bit more now this morning. As I mentioned, the markets have already decreased too much. The options market's not going to allow anybody with put options to get extremely rich, so they're going to drive the market price back up to allow options traders pretty much a small win, anybody trading overnight or anybody trading for the past couple days. So they're probably going to squeeze this up pre-market to alleviate having to pay out anybody who shorted Tesla overnight with short-term options. That's most likely what the market's doing right now. Not a surprise, and it's pretty typical. So there's Alibaba for you. And then one of the next most popular stocks this morning is APT, because APT is actually a company that has to do with, like, I think the face mask and pretty much coronavirus. This stock has to do with that. So there's a lot of talk around this because it's had such a good pre-market move. So though we've had a good pre-market move on APT this morning, ultimately the chart's really not even that great. So I don't think there's anything to get all excited about just yet. So you have this chart. We went up, we went down, went up, and now we're just kind of bouncing, right? You know, the likelihood that this just bounces straight up and breaks out. So you're not getting over 863. You're not getting over 784. You might potentially test 677. And that's it. Yeah, right? You know, basically what's happened so far in APT is probably a majority of what is going to happen. I don't really see. Let's see where we at. Did we have a divergence here? Didn't even have a divergence, so it's a weak bounce at that. Yeah, I think the most you can even respectfully target on APT today would be 672. At most, 7. No. Yeah, I mean, at most you could target 787. The likelihood of that seems pretty thin. But I would say first target, if anything, should be 675, right in that zone. And then pretty much from that point on, you're probably not getting up to 782. So pretty much you're already mostly late to this move. So if you're going to trade this or even consider trading APT, you really have to make sure that your entries are very risk oriented on the intraday timing. Probably take a little less size. The setup is already moved, right? So that's APT, okay? So just to give you guys some updates on this real quick, because again, it is an important talking point. I'm very well up to date on the whole coronavirus situation. So we're not going to spread any conspiracy here, even though we know governments are the best. Governments are truthful. They're amazing. I love nothing more than the government. They're awesome. So now that the internet knows that I love them, they can stop shadowing my channel. But so what we do know from the legit reported cases is that there should be about 60,000 infected in China. It has now reached Japan, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Germany, France, Canada, United States, Singapore, Australia. There's more places I'm forgetting it. It's in Washington, California, Arizona, Indiana, Illinois, New York City. You have 1,000 people that are being monitored in the city of Los Angeles, which is very dangerous because you also have a terrible homeless population that takes place in LA. So if that hit the streets, it could really spread through the streets of LA like wildfire. You had the cases were 5,000 new cases per day that just jumped to 15,000 yesterday. So we went from a 5,000 new case average a day to now we're up to 15,000. We spiked to 15,000. And that's the way viruses work. The longer they go on, they eventually hit a doubling. It's almost like it's like a doubling. They basically double their infection rate, and as it gets more and more, just the number grows. So not to scare anybody too yet, but again, the virus is pretty much in every single country. It is pretty much completely over the entire province of China. So kind of something serious to talk about. And again, you still don't know the actual legit true numbers of any of this, which is the worst part. So this is a very, very important talking point to consider. Just an FYI. That's kind of where we're at right now. Is pretty much in multiple states around the United States. It's almost in every single country of the world. It's covered pretty much all of China. And this could very well cause a negative impact on pretty much every single market globally if it spreads as fast as if it continues. And that's the thing, is it's not slowing down. It hasn't slowed down. Hasn't slowed down yet. If they do create some type of vaccine, then yes, we'll be able to combat it. But until then, this thing is going to keep spreading. Okay? Right? Parker Moss. So we've actually surpassed the deaths of the SARS virus. So SARS was like maybe 600, 700 deaths. We've already surpassed that. And the numbers that you're reading aren't actually true. You don't know if they're true. So we knew SARS was around 9%. The 2% number you're hearing, it's not to be trusted just yet. So we can't confirm that it's actually 2%. Numbers are actually looking like it's far higher than 2%, but we can't know for sure because governments are so awesome. They've told us what we think we should know. But so we're still waiting for accurate, true numbers. We could actually be looking at 200 to 400 deaths a day in China currently. But again, we don't actually know for sure. So we'll just wait. We'll just wait and see. But again, it's a serious talking point, and if it does continue to spread the way it has been spreading, 100% there will be global panic eventually, and markets will get hit. Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, let's see what else we got. So I was going to watch LK today. That was on my radar yesterday and into today, but we couldn't quite get through the top. We're kind of holding the pullback this morning, so we'll see. This is still into kind of a cup. We kind of have a handle still, so we might get the break over that 39 level tomorrow. But at some point, I think we will see an attempt to get through it once again, and when that happens, we should see a pretty good long play out of there, I would believe. So we'll be keeping LK on watch. We've been following BILI for quite some time here. It's still working really well. I still have some shares in Robinhood long term on this. So those are doing well. There is a bearish divergence, it looks like, on the daily chart. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a harsh pullback actually sooner rather than later. Yeah, probably. Yeah, political standpoint, yeah, probably, I would say. Yeah, Jay Carr, so that's 1,300 reported deaths. We have no idea if that's even accurate at this point. Probably not, though. All right, so yeah, I mean, all in all, those are kind of some of the main ones. I mean, I wasn't really planning on watching too much more at this point. Side note, the markets are they up to, they came down, they're bouncing quite a bit this morning. Yeah, so if we look at the markets from a 4-hour, no, not 4-hour, a daily chart was showing, still is showing the potential early phase of a divergence. That's why I believe we started pulling back a little bit yesterday too, and some more like hype around the coronavirus. So anyways, at the end of the day, the markets are high in its cycle. So if we kind of take a trend line, hold on, give me a second. Like just in regards to this, I mean, if you take a trend line and that's your market right there. So we're kind of trading up and over and bounce. So we're high in this cycle. So the next stop will be a pullback down to this trend line. It's just a fact. It's going to happen. Okay. So in the future here, we will see a day sooner than later where this market does pull back down and have a bearish correctional move, but it'll probably come and bring it back down to about this white trend line. So just keep that trend line on your chart, draw it out yourself, but that would be most likely the next stop for the market on its corrective move that we see. So now you have a pretty good idea as far as where it's going to go, next time around. Yeah, we could look at Roku. So Roku's probably not going to do a whole lot today. They have earnings coming out tomorrow, after hours today. So you're probably not going to see a whole lot of movement out of the stock today. And the reason being is because the market, I think, is implying for Roku. I think the options market is implying about a 10-point move for Roku. So where we're currently at is at about 140. So if the market keeps Roku completely sideways today, it sets up a perfect scenario for the markets to play out the options. And so basically what we're looking at is if they keep the markets basically completely sideways on Roku, then you're 10 points away from 150, 20 points away from the gap fill. The options won't get extremely overpriced going into the earnings, so it can still be enticing for individuals to buy the early expiration options before they expire. So what I'm getting at is if the market keeps everything the way it is sideways just until the release of the earnings, the premiums on all the options and all the puts will stay at a fairly it's somewhat of a fair value where traders would be willing to purchase. If we spike the stock Roku too high today towards 150, then the premiums on the options going into the earnings will be too expensive and many people probably wouldn't buy them, or some probably would, but less participants would take place on that because the options have already reached the strike price. So I just don't see a lot of traders willing to gamble on that. It could still go down, so you'll still attract the put buyers. That's the other thing. If you run the price of Roku, if the market wants 150s, 160s, and you run the price of Roku too high today, then you're basically going to be at the 150, 160s, and the market will instantly sell into that move, which would then create the put options to be too cheap. So I think the markets are most likely going to want to keep Roku just where they're at so that everything stays the way it should be and the way that it was meant to be and planned to be going into this earnings. So I think you're not going to see too much movement from Roku today. I think you're going to see a pretty fairly stable day going into the earnings. Absolutely. It does. I will say this, though. I will say that Roku did have an interesting kind of feel. We had the top, and then we're kind of just sitting here, just hanging out. So it does actually have the setup to have a good move up, kind of like a pop move. But a lot of times, the day of earnings, stocks just really don't do it. They really just don't do a whole lot. Okay. Your movers today, I didn't really like anything today. There was nothing that really sparked my attention or caught my eye. So when it's a day like that, when nothing really truly grabs my attention a lot, then I usually just sit back and I'll just watch until I like something. Because there's always tons of intraday moves and levels that you'll find on stocks after the market opens and things start picking the directions the way they want to go. They get easier to read. So unless there's a setup or something that I've really been following for a long time, maybe a couple days, a couple weeks, that's setting up perfectly, then these naturally wouldn't be my big green day. Like a big green day will be something where I've been watching it for a couple days, couple weeks, really understand it, and then I nail the trade. Something like today where I come in and everything's kind of just moving and I've never found something for myself today, then I'll usually sit back, watch the market, and as soon as something appears that I like, then I'll jump in, smaller size, usually on days like this. But days where a stock that I've been watching is set up really nicely, those will be usually the days where I try to hammer up something. Okay. Nope, don't. I mean, it could. Tesla could definitely drop. It could definitely drop. But I just don't think it's the drop that you're thinking of in your mind is this big sweeping down move. The markets probably aren't going to give you that, right? If we do get a down, I mean, I don't know for sure. I don't know everything, but based on the way we've bounced this morning, clearly people are buying it up off that 700. So we know 700 support. So we know that even if it did just roll over and rip down, it's not going to go through the pre-market low first attempt. It's not going to happen. So I think that with the sentiment of Tesla today, with how we've rolled over and the news that's hit the wire, right? A lot of the retail market views offerings as bad. You have the news of the recall, some news on the 10K, all that news surrounding the stock this morning could definitely cause some down moves initially. But I just don't think the markets are going to give us too much on that. TOS is actually just fine for me. I mean, there's still a little lag in the morning, like there's always been, but it's not like it was by any means. And even if you wait 10 minutes to trade, then everything goes back to normal anyways. So I will stick with them. I'll probably still eventually get an account. I'm just in no rush. I'm literally in zero rush to open up any account or really just move money anywhere. But in the future, I'm assuming I'll have other accounts. I mean, I have a Trade Zero account. I have a Lightspeed account. I have a Robinhood, a Webull, a Tasty. I mean, I have multiple accounts already. I mean, you just can't, it's too hard to go through and use all of them all at once. So, but I mean, I'm sure I'll have one. But anyways, they're working just fine as long as you're not going on for too long or trying to trade too much in the morning. Right at bell open, you'll be just fine, right? So it's all about the sentiment. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all about the sentiment. We got a lot of sentiment of bearish movement today. So I think the markets are going to use that sentiment to drive it down a little bit, but ultimately not allow traders to really get too much downside on today. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this thing just burns to the grave, but I just don't think that's going to happen. But I do strongly think that in the future, we're going to be seeing prices of about 600 to... I think 100% we're going to see like 600. Well, no, I think 100% we'll see like 650s, right? But just based on how we've traded, it makes the most logical thing for the markets to do would be go down to like the 550s area. Like that's the most logical thing. The most logical thing is not to go up. Like I know markets are irrational, but they're really not, because the markets and pros, the people who move the markets, they want to make money and they know how to make money, right? And they all sort of do the same thing to make money. And that would be a move down to like 500. Let me put it this way. If Tesla stock, right, guys, if Tesla stock really is all that everyone says it is, and it's so great, then why would we keep ramping the stock up? Shouldn't we drive it lower so we can get shares at a better price? Duh. If this is the future, then why wouldn't we get shares lower? The markets just went through it. Tesla just went from 300 to 900. If you guys don't know, ARK Investments thinks that Tesla is the all-godly future and has been praising Tesla for quite a while now, but yet they've sold out like 70 or 80% of their position on Tesla because you'd be insane not to take advantage of this move and sell it. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime bullish rip. It doesn't happen like ever or very often. You'd be stupid not to sell and then reposition as it gets weaker. That's what I'm doing. Just because you missed a move up doesn't mean it's, and that's the thing, just because it's a great stock doesn't mean it's a good price to buy. So I think we'll see prices of 500 to 600, eventually. But, all right. So everybody, have a great rest of your day. I'm going to finish here at that. I'm going to get back to our private group there. So everybody take care. Have a great day. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning for another trading day.